In this video, we'll be dealing with the issue of our footer not sticking to the very bottom of our browser. So to do this, we first need to go back inside the main.scss and change a few values in the sticky footer styles. So it says here on the body that the margin bottom needs to be the footer height. So if we said that the footer height is 72 pixels, we need to add that very same value right here. And vertically centering the text will be done by specifying the value of 72 pixels as well. So we're going to go File, Save. Next, we also need to inspect what is actually causing the footer to be lifted up a little bit, and that's the P element. And if we look right here in the inspector, let me just zoom this in a little bit for you so you can see it better. So if we target this P element right here, we can see that the margin bottom is set to 1, a responsive M. So if I uncheck this checkbox, it's going to move in place. So this is the reason for that little stripe of white space right there. So in order to do this, to correct this, we're simply going to say margin bottom is going to be 0, and we're going to specify it on the footer. So inside the footer we've got the P class, so we're going to say we're using the nesting here, and that's one of the characteristics of SCSS, that you can nest elements, and this is not possible in plain CSS. So let's just say P, so that's going to be all the P tags inside the footer class are going to have the margin bottom of 0 pixels. So if I hit save, the server is running, so it should be regenerating. And back in here, when I go refresh, the footer is in its position as we imagined it. So that's taken care of. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to finish our website by adding a couple of cards right here. So I imagined to have three cards next to each other, and they are going to describe our services in more detail. So let's go back in Bootstrap Docs and let's go cards. And when I open the cards, I'm just going to look for, actually I think we can even use this first one. So let's copy it, go back here, and that's going to be placed inside the Try Our Services section. So that's going to go inside the index page. So right here we are going to have 3 cards. So we've got a P followed by 3 cards. So let's just do it like this. We're going to have this card right here to test it out. Okay, obviously we also need to center it a little bit, so we're going to have to give it a container and everything else that comes with it. But for the time being, let's move the card out into its separate file, and let's say include card2.html. And now let's open any old file, make sure it's saved. And now let's go Alt F8 and we'll save this file inside the includes as card2, and now I'll just Control A to select everything and Control V to paste in the card code that we copied from the Bootstrap site. And now finally let's tab this in a little bit, save. Back in index we are already referencing the card2 file, and let's just wrap everything inside a div with a class of container, and let's close that div and paste in our code and maybe pull it back in a little bit. Control S to save it, and back in here it's getting better, but we also need to include an image. So let's go back here and reopen the card. Actually, let's reopen it with Control Shift T, and the image is going to be http placehold.it/400 by 250. Control S, F5. Okay. So next we are going to add a couple more cards here. So let's just do this. Control S. Back in here I'm going to go F5, and we get an interesting thing happening. The cards are stacking. And we want the cards to go horizontally, not vertically. So let's look at what we can do right here. So we're looking for examples of cards together, and this is one example of that. So you can use the grid markup, which means we need to add a row and columns. So back in Visual Studio Code, we can say that the row can start here, or actually we can even start the row right here, it doesn't matter. So we'll say div class equals row, and now let's close the row, and inside of here we're going to say div class equals full-md-4, and we can close the div, and now we can repeat the same thing for the next card, and we can close the second one and open the third one, and now it's just a matter of lining everything up nicely. So let's tab in all the elements that we need, and maybe even give it a little space, why not? And now that we've done all of this, we can go File, Save All, go back in here, refresh our website, and the cards are stacking, but I haven't closed. Something is not being closed, so it's messing the layout. So let's see what is going on. We've got the div class row, div class container, so we haven't actually closed the row. Okay, so when I go Control S, F5, and now it's back to normal, and the only thing left here is to give it a bit more spacing in between the services section and the testimonial section. and you already probably know how we're gonna do that. We're just gonna give it padding bottom 5, Control S, and inside the card 2 we're not going to have the let's just turn the word wrap on. We're not going to have the submit button at this point, but maybe we're going to use it later, so let's just comment it out for the time being. Okay, so that way it's still there if we need it, and we're going to just give it some more text here. Okay, and service description. Control S, F5, and now this looks like quite a nice, simple, small business website. So we've got the About Us page, we've got the Contact Us page, we've got the home page. Everything is working good. And the last thing that we will do as far as this layout goes, we are going to actually publish this layout online. And in order to do that, we need to hook up our Jekyll project with GitHub pages, because that's how we're going to serve it. So we're going to see something really interesting in the few coming videos.